Hello, my name is Brant Hunt. Today is the 29th day of December 2022, and my channel is Discerning What is True on YouTube. And what I'm going to be talking to you about will be Redemption 4.5. The reason why I'm doing Redemption 4.5 is a massive book, over 680 pages long. The book is a way of actually getting yourself out of what I would call what you got yourself into. That is, it will deal with what we call security party creditor. It will deal with what we call universal, uh, what is it called? UCC also. Uh, and it will allow you to see how you have put yourself into bondage and how you can get yourself out of bondage and how to eventually to reciprocate what is in your trust if you follow its guidelines. So this is not for the easy read. I don't do easy read books, folks. I don't. You know, easy read books are basically put out by authors who basically are telling you lies. And so this Redemption 4.5 is giving you an excellent history of our country financially and what took place because basically it's all about banking. And so the key players here explain and how you can set yourself free. So I hope that you will enjoy it, but more important, that you would have a desire to be set free. Unfortunately, 99.9% of the people in this country think they're free already. And the problem simply is they don't understand the all caps name. They don't understand, if you were truly free, why don't you own your own property? If you were truly free, why do you pay taxes? And why was there an educational system that was established shortly 25 years after the setup of this particular country? And in reality, this is not a country, it is a corporation. So here we go. Hope you enjoy it. And hopefully we'll have some comments here. I'll try to answer your questions if I can. And thank you for being here. We'll start at basically page 108 here, original jurisdiction. You may use several law dictionaries to look up meanings for law and legal terms. It depends on the author and publisher as to which law forum they publish. If you read Black's Law Dictionary, you're going to get one opinion of one point of view. If you're reading Bouvier or Ballantines, you might be getting another point of view. This is inserted here because Black's Law Dictionary came out shortly after the new Constitution was formed in 1887. Remember, the new Constitution was established. It was no longer a country, so to speak, but it became a corporation in 1871. Black's Law Dictionary was first published in 1891. That was 20 years, that is, a time of prescription after the corporate United States came into full force and effect by the Act of February 21st, 1871. What does Black Law Dictionary define? It defines the terms, the legal meanings of words as they apply to bifurcated United States corporation. Roughly every 20 years, there has been a new edition of Black's because every 20-year period in use, it is in the bifurcation. If anyone failed to give a notice of lawful protest, they would go on to the next stage and say, let's change it again to see if we can go a little further. And we'll see if anybody protests this. So as you go through any such 20-year arguments, or segments, I should say, from 1871, 1891, on all the way to, present day. You get different definitions with Black Law dictionaries. Remember, bifurcated means separated. The newly incorporated United States is separated from the original jurisdiction. even separately, entirely from the Constitution of the Republican form of government as established by the U.S. Constitution. It's like an overlay, you see. It's just an overlay of something that was originally there, still is there, but it's overlay, and this is why we have all these statutes and legal terms that were not present when the Constitution was first established. So remember that the original Constitution came in with the fact that it contains both the private side and public side. That's pertaining to the residue sovereignty of the original signatures. This was passed by hereditary birthrights by ways of such reservations, limitations, and restrictions, i.e., Article 6 and the attendant articles of amendments within the compact over their creation, to which their posterity received, that is, the beneficiaries by contract through the trust indentured, that is, the Constitution creating the social compact. You see the preamble of the Constitution. The private side of government can never be changed. The private side of government is based upon laws of nature and nature's creator. And those laws never change. So the public side of government, which we call general jurisdiction, is different from the original jurisdiction. The original jurisdiction is based on the laws of nature and nature's creator, which are the powers assumed by peoples acquiring by such declarations their separate and equal station, and establishing their forms of original jurisdiction of government, that is, by social compact to secure the peace, the safety, and the happiness for themselves and their posterity. The law of nature, that is, the law, the natural creator, entitles them to that it can never change. Only the forms which people use to implement the reasons for which they created in any society, that is, for the benefit, to secure the peace, safety, and pursuit of happiness according to the dictates of their beliefs, customs, and practices of such, not only for themselves, but for their posterity, that can change. Could you amend the original jurisdiction? Why would you amend the social compact to change that which never changes? Unless you intend to change the very structure of society, of the social compact as a whole, to which the original jurisdiction was created, to protect and pass such protections by birthright to the posterity by the will of the creators through their testaments. That is the Constitution thereto. There is no reason to do so. To do so would be diametrically opposed to the dialectic will and testament, lex scripto, of the creators of such social compact, leading to a rebellious war with the law of nature and nature's creator, established pillars of universal law via which any and all such social compacts were justly created. To ignore the intent and purpose of the creators of such social compacts would bring about utter chaos, a breach of the peace of the international public order to which any other original jurisdiction have come to rely upon to maintain the general order of the public arena, between them in relations to their intercourse, in which such treaties are established, to secure the blessings of the variety of such societies in creation, and those so created and governed by the pillars of universal law, is a treason against each and every walk of life on planet Earth. Such actions which tend to create chaos sent to arise from the disrespect of one ancestor and their refusal to learn the lessons of their predecessors. So original jurisdiction is and always remains exactly what it is. It never changes. Only from time to time does a situation arise of necessity to ordain new constructs for the purpose so delineated jus pro. What is the law? The law never changes. It is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Contract. A contract is governed by the doctrine of four corners, or that which is expressed in terms on some form of medium as to be an acceptable custom and practice as lex scripto, and in very rare circumstances which was exacting evidence to support such, is by such custom and practices recognized as a maximum of law, so well known for it to be unnecessary to put it in written formality, thus becoming known as lex non scriptio by such general acceptance or general acquisitions. This definition of contract is derived from the principles of the doctrines of maximum law that have been developed down through the millennium of jurisprudence of mankind, guided by the divine spirit of truth, as recognized by not just one society, but which each and every one of these societies are founded upon. These are the same maxims which we have referred to as the Supreme Creator's pillars of universal law. Now we move to the public side of any social compact. What is this side? The side that amended from time to time but does not change in respect to intent? That is the public administration side of the various social compact and / or their respective agency side of these government compacts. Is the public government law? Yes. This law affects and controls anyone who is a signatory to some overlying brackets above the constitutional compact. A contract conditional upon the ability to create such agency relationships, arising from social compact respective thereto, and to whom such agencies are to be bound with any administration manner, relative thereto, and further in relationship to their consideration given for performance of certain conditions governed thereby, concerning any such overlying, that is an example of a treaty contract. Furthermore, it is a contract which establishes and governs any means to create internal and external management, policies and procedures, such as venues, forums, or jurisdictions, rules and or regulations, thereby which is to inform parties to whom such concerns or however the law is known as it may apply or not, and to whomever to help determine their use and their procedure applying to their assets and their property belonging to their private and any corporate side of their public side of government, created to give order within their social compact, relative to any foreign exchange from the public side of government to the private side of government. Just think for a minute. Does a private owner of a business or property have any political right to make his own rules, regulations, and laws for use of his own property? Yes, he does. That is exactly what their statutes, regulations, and rules are. They are internal management, policies, and procedures. They deal with the property and asset of their private side of their government in relation to any agency public side of their government. In 1871, did all walks of life not signatory to any other such social compact fall under their incorporated jurisdiction of their private government? Yes and no. Only those who live in their city of Washington, that is, the District of Columbia and / or their United States and its territories, and any and all registered voters, that is the 14th Amendment slaves, the word citizens, pursuant to their 15th Article of Amendment. Now on to the second part of this answer. No, due to the fact that all walks of life have a choice to emerge into any political status freely determined by that people to proclaim their separate and equal station and assume among the powers of earth their separate and equal station to which nature's law and nature's creator entitled them within the framework of the international public order. The particular conflict known as Civil War between the several states of the Union did not touch upon all walks of life. What all walks of life within any locale or that of any other conflict continually educates others to believe is that those of the social compact, that is, those who form and or presently administer any such social compact, are serving all interests. In fact, such compact party members, therefore, thereof, are simply carrying out their design of action for their own private reasons and gain. By controlling their centers of education relative from childhood to adulthood, members of such social compacts continue to teach others outside of such compacts that there was or slash is some duty owed or allegiance given on the parts of those of the various walks of life. But for all intents and purposes, in reality, reality, such as walks of life do not owe either, bearing in mind that they are neither a party signature to such social compact or directly related by blood as one of their posterity thereof. Therefore, such walks of life have little or nothing whatsoever to do with a social compact, known as the several states of the Union, commonly referred to as the United States of America. That is not in all caps, not unlike as so many others before them who had been so enticed, appertaining to other outside such as social compacts, that is, those non-signature or related by blood to those signature to the compact, and drawn into their conflicts then at hand or otherwise. This type of education upon all walks of life help firm up positions from either side of any conflict for the particular parties' own private reasons, that is, their own private reasons, whether or not those reasons were just in any eyes of the foreigner or otherwise to their compact or not. Through such misrepresentation and conditioning of the mind of those foreign to their social compact, were their members to their compact successfully at controlling the outcome of that particular conflict or otherwise from the outset. From an assumed and definitely presumed authority that those outside their compact believe, as educated by member as agencies of the various social compacts, truly had or have any rightful authority to do so upon a vast populace. This same type of educational program continues to perpetrate the same mindset to keep all walks of life under various forms of control to this very day. They will continue to do so with their same tools of misrepresentation and false education. Whenever any such conflicts arise in respect to their need of their members of their social compacts. All the sovereign peoples of earth shall remain Fodder, Fodder, for these compacts until these sovereign people become aware of the supreme law, that is the treaty, and how to use private international law within their international public order, for which all social compacts are founded upon, for their benefit, for those who choose or wish to emerge into any other political status for whatever various reason, into a social compact for their own safety, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, rather than continue to exist for others who have done so for whatever private reason. These walks, that is, those walks of life, who continue to refuse to emerge into whatever form of compact for their benefit, will always be at the mercy of those who have, without exception. So what he's explaining here simply is if you continue to go along with the crowd and you don't actually set yourself free, you'll be at the mercy of those who have the power. Continue. Returning now to further comment upon the original private corporate government back in 1789, as pertaining to the social compact known as the United States. This social compact was established on certain principles and rules, but as we've seen, it went through a bankruptcy almost right away. And with each stage of their bankruptcy, there was reorganization. And I talked about that last night when we have what we call bankruptcy that takes place. For example, J.C. Penney's or anybody of that nature out there, they have to reorganize themselves, and it's called reorganization. And so they eliminate some stores, and because they're in bankruptcy. And so, in other words, they may close 25 stores in order to basically get themselves back on sound principles. That is not sound principles, but sound money, if they're going to get any loan for such and such. So in other words, they have to prove to the others that they're looking for that they're reorganizing and actually going to get their ship in order in order to get, $5 million or $100 million from a banker, so to speak. And, that just want to explain that way. And that's what took place with the United States. They had to reorganize. Reorganization creates a new set of circumstances, probably a new set of creditors and or masters with rules to discharge their old bankruptcy. This is the word they use, discharge. When you have a charge, you can discharge it. Roughly every 20 years you have a reorganization, you get different changes in the rules and regulations. And it just goes on and on. As the proprietors and creditors of their private law forum, it goes into worse and worse bankruptcy, creating tighter and tighter rules in order to raise revenue to keep things going. And that is what you see today. And that is truly what you've seen. You've been seeing it. And I've given you illustrations of this whole thing that took place within 7 years. The United States was not able to pay back its loan. And so it's 70 years later. It's 1859. And they don't handle it again, so they're given 70 years again. And that becomes 1929. And they failed to accomplish that until 1999. And each step that takes place here is a gradual taking of more and more of what used to be free. In other words, everything is tightening and tightening. It's like stress is being put upon something, and there's less leeway, so to speak. Look at the back of one of your so-called bills. Do you see Egyptian pyramid? This is the symbol and logo of the U.S. Treasury. Have you observed the architecture of Washington, D.C. with its Egyptian monoliths, columns, stairways, and Corinths? What are the colors of Egypt? Red, white, and blue? What is the symbol of Egypt? The five-pointed star? Egypt means hemmed in or boxed in. District of Columbia is assumed to be a 10-mile square. The district, that is the all caps United States of Columbia, was started by the Illuminati, the Masonic group that originated in Egypt. What do you think the Illuminati call? What do you think the Illuminati call the United States in all capitals? You guessed it, the New Egypt. If you're noticing any similarities here, feel free to discuss them with others among those who seek the truth of history, locally or otherwise. America, the land of the free, with question mark. Indentured servants in Europe were frequently offered the option to go to a mass of land known as America and work off their assumed debt to those they owed money, and sometimes their life. Many took the gamble and found that they were able to pay off their debts much easier and faster in the land of opportunity than they could have by staying in Europe. Next section, United States, the corporation. In 1871, the United States incorporated in England and was stated earlier and therefore became an English corporation under the rule of the Crown. It is the Rothschild. Rothschild means red shield. That is not the original name of the family, though. As you will see, corporations are not governments. They can only rule by contracts through corporate copyright policy. How can a corporation have authority over you? Only by and within the framework and four corners doctrine of contract law. State, as defined in 28 USC as, SS 1331 C and D. Define the following words in a standard dictionary, including derivatives, corporation, law, legal, lie, color law, rights, benefits, certificate, application, attorney, represent, organization, organ, work, policy, copyright, and private. Define the following words, phrases in Black's dictionary: color law, represent, rights, benefits, privilege, corporations, artificial entities, persons, body, individuals, citizen, intern, revenue, internal revenue, bankruptcy, resident, occupant, dweller, habitant, reside, address, taxpayer, and debtor. Note, I can note my own observations, but this would only eliminate on your part the task of self-education. So please take the time to educate yourself and not continually rely upon others to speak for you or explain what they have learned and for which you have failed to take the time to delve out for yourself, so that the knowledge you receive by and through repetition, study, becomes a tool of wisdom for each and every one of you who reads this manual. The United States and the Secure Party. Due to the immediately bankruptcy since their Revolutionary War, that is the all caps United States, has been under many bankruptcy reorganizations. There are only two groups of people in the situation that we have today. It's the creditors and the debtors. Their creditor is also called a secure party because his interest is secure and not able to be taken away by any debtor. Who gave any consideration to make the Federal Reserve notes, bills, and bonds, otherwise known in today's commerce as currency or legal tender. The 73rd Congress, that is March 9, 1933, said that is the new currency, will be worth 100 cents on the dollar. It will represent the credit of their nation. It will represent a mortgage on all the homes and the property of the people of the nation. If the United States, that is in all caps, receives the benefit of the credit that all walks of life extended to them, does that make them the debtor or the creditor? The United States, again, all caps, employees even know who you are, a creditor. So isn't it time we started acting like the creditor we truly are? What is the United States? More forbidden history. Based on the comments and behavior of people all over North America, as it is known, the United States Inc. is reverent. Dare we say worship, unlike any other corporation on the soil in the Western Hemisphere of planet Earth, commonly referred to as America. The reasons for this are many, but few of them have to do with anything remotely dealing with truth and reality. The majority of those who call themselves unwittingly as Americans know very little about any real history of the United States, including the nature of the incident that sparked the war for independence and the true outcome of that war. As you will discover below, it was not about the tax on the tea. Our heads are filled with revisionist history by the members of the social compact that control the centers of public education within or around the locale of social compact known as the United States. We have continually been redacted to encourage worship, adoration, and subservience to government authority. All their school teachers out there who have ever tried to deviate from the accepted instructional material in their controlled government schools know what I mean. If you don't toe the line, you were forced into retirement. What would you think if your friends and neighbors started a cult following after McDonald's Corporation? What if only every anniversary since the founding of McDonald's they gathered together to have a barbecue and shoot off fireworks because they thought that Big Mac set them free? Or took several days off during the year to celebrate Ronald McDonald's birthday and car buses of Ronald at Mount Rushmore to honor him. They would fly the McDonald's corporate flag outside their homes and paste stickers of the flag on their vehicles. What if every time an executive from McDonald's ran for office and sent campaign contributions for their favorite candidate? Periodically, they might even call on the officers of the corporation to solve problems that they were experiencing in their daily lives. Whereas this sounds sacrilegious abuse, I'm sure, and may even appear to stretch the bounds of making an appropriate analogy, it is no less valid or logic. In fact, if it weren't for certain unrevealed contracts and a whole lot of brainwashing, the United States Inc. would have no more influence, power, or jurisdiction over you than McDonald's, IBM, General Motors, or for that matter, any other corporation. America has been under an evolving military occupation since 1871. The flag that is flown around the so-called nation in public places and by people who celebrate the occupation is the war flag of the United States. That's correct. The horizontal lines, that is with the red and white, is the war flag. The opposite would be vertical lines, which is the peace flag. You do see a few of those occasionally, but most people think that the ones going horizontal is the flag of the United States, but it's a war flag. If there was such a thing as a peacetime flag, it is to presume that it would be neutral, white banner / flag, and no other, such as the type of flag that is commonly referred to as a truce flag. Notice that the title of this essay doesn't include the word "the," just as General Motors doesn't imply a plural number of motors. The United States does not imply a plural number of states. There is nothing plural about the contemporary use of the term United States. It's a singular proper noun, and correct usage does not include the antecedent definite article "the." United States, that is the capital U with the S being smaller, is a corporate trade name like General Motors and identifies a corporation, albeit federal and municipal, but a corporation nevertheless, just as proper English doesn't include the Canada of the Finland or the Egypt. It likewise does not include the United States. A far more accurate indicator would be the state of the United States. We read of the state of Great Britain in the Declaration of Independence. We hear of the state of Israel in the news. The proper recital of the name United States identifies the for-profit, bankrupt, commercial enterprise in Washington, D.C., presently managed by the receiver in bankruptcy. That is the Secretary of Treasury of Puerto Rico, aka Secretary of Treasury. The United States is a slightly concocted syllogism, a violation of grammatical rules or of the approved idiomatic uses of language, that plants in the mind the notion that its identity is merged with the states, when in fact it is foreign to the compact party states. To fully answer the question, what is the United States, is forbidden history, and the very presumption for supporting it, that we are free, must first be examined. We will forego our opinions for the moment and examine the record. If you sincerely believe that you are free from bondage because you can't see, hear, taste, smell, or touch it, you will understand after completing this reading that your awareness of this possibility is not a necessary condition for its existence. Contrary to public opinion, all that those who fought and died for in the war for independence and rendered null and void just a few short years after the battle ended. The British soldiers were recalled, but the bankers were not. Bankers are always the problem, folks. Always has been. Think about it deeply, please. The so-called United States is but a tool, that is, a Trojan horse, if you will, and you are the subject of those who control it, for the money kings, that is, the ancient money changers of modern-day money mechanics. As a backdrop to the so-called American Revolution, here is a brief overview of economic forces that were being unleashed in Britain around the time of the Revolution. They provided important background and insight for you to understand that the money kings used everyone and everything as pawns, including governments, in a world game of monopoly. They never operated out in the light of day. They prefer anonymity. You can only know them through their agents and their state apparatus of their countries they control. The following 9 paragraphs examine the methods of operation, modus operandi, and the strategies behind them. The economic juggernaut these money kings set in motion toppled everything in its wake, including the fledgling new republic. Ask yourself why you read this. Do you see evidence of these same practices operating in your world today? The money power of the world entered upon a new and grander era of development when steam was applied to manufacturing. In 1774, Mr. Watt perfected the steam engine. This new servant of man, mightier than genie of original fable, was at once set to work propelling manufacturing. The power loom, the spinning jenny, and the cotton gin were soon afterwards invented, giving a great impulse to the steam manufacturing industry. The condition of the time threw steam manufacturers entirely in the hands of London money power. Great Britain was the only country in Europe which had coal and iron for steam purposes. The capitalists of East India Company were the only people in the world with capital to engage in the new industry. The great trading companies of other countries had been broken down by British conquest, enriched by the trade of the Orient and the tropics. These London capitalists at once seized the opportunity events offered them. It is a chance to serve as prepared mind and embark energetically into steam manufacturing. The East India Company as such did not engage in these manufactures. All the stockholders would not wish to invest in them. So large a corporation would be unwieldy. The immensity of the monopoly might excite alarm and provoke opposition. It would serve them better to operate through smaller corporations. A few capitalists might hold the stock of a great number of them without exciting jealousy, and their management would be quiet and easy. The different corporations were like the regiments of the army. It was easy to form them into brigades and divisions and army corps in order to give them the compact solidity of a great military organization. It had the flexibility of individual enterprise and the solidity of despotism. The Money Kings adopted a policy of single corporate companies for each special enterprise. They built manufacturers of all kinds. They started iron mills, woolen mills, cotton mills. Manufacturers of all kinds sprung up everywhere. The Money Kings organized new joint stock corporations, which built mills and manufacturers. New companies operated mines of coal and iron as commerce energetically expanded through manufacturing wrought by steam power. They organized new companies which built vessels to plow the waters of every ocean and built new warehouses. They established new trading stations all over the earth. Commerce had languished in previous ages because the Earth's temperate zone did not have sufficient cheap products suited to tropical demand to offer in exchange for tropical production. Steam manufacturing opened up a new commerce era. They greatly stimulated tropical production by offering manufacturers in those markets. They also greatly stimulated industry in the temperate zone. In all the countries of the temperate zone, the demand for manufacturing in Britain was far beyond the ability to pay for them with exports. The first effect of this state of things was a wave of excitement that swept over Great Britain. An industrial boom was started. Everybody had money invested in the stock of manufacturing companies, shipping companies, trading companies. The Money Kings took care to have the majority of stock outside companies for steam manufacturers they knew they could devour at their leisure. The Grand Money Kings had such advantage in their immense capital and in their perfect organization that is in commercial crisis often originated and always manipulated by them. Let's see. They managed systematically to break down rival companies and buy them out. They robbed and plundered the minority stockholders. In the end, these organized capitalists, they stole from people, folks. They just stole from them. In the end, these organized capitalists got into their own hands, and for a pittance of the true value, all or the greater part of the stock of the various companies, manufacturing, mercantile, and shipping that originated in steam manufacturing. They thus reduced to a system and science the art of crushing rising or rival companies and freezing out minority stockholders. Their whole career was a systematic course of treachery, fraud, and plunder without a parallel in history. They advanced step by step, always causing a boom in every new enterprise that enlisted much outside capital, always managing to operate within seasons of business disaster. They lost a few hundred thousand by falling prices, a loss which they were abundantly able to stand while making more millions by attaining cheaply the stock of brokers, corporations, and the stock sold by minorities. This is critical what they do. This is what they call boom and bust. It's a way that people jump on the wagon, sometimes jump on it when the stock is more valuable, and then they plunge the stock and it's worth 1/10 of what it once was, and people lose their money, and they gain that money. You see, over and over and over again. This system originated for the purpose of enabling large capitalists to force stocks up or down as they chose by dint of capital without any regard to the actual value, the most satanic engine of trickery, fraud, and oppression ever devised to enable the strong to plunder the weak. It is the dragnet with which the money kings destroy multitudes of men of small means, like the fisherman takes fish in his sea. There are fishermen at the rest of mankind is their prey. They're always seeking after spoil. They're always dragging their net for the destruction of the unwary. But aside from this plunder of the weak and the trusting, the regular profits of this new age of industry were very large. In every social construct or compact of the temperate zone, the ongoing demand for British manufacturing was much greater than could be paid for by exports. The difference in the balance of trade was always systematically arranged by lending money on mortgage for that amount, or by spending the amount of the deficit in starting some business enterprise in that locale or so-called country. In this way, the adverse balance of trade was not felt by the economic community of the locality falling behind. It bought all it wanted, and adverse balance of trade actually made times better, for it caused the profits of the money kings to be invested in the so-called country, stimulating business into activity. The disadvantage was the business investment did not belong to the so-called nation, but to the money kings, and the prosperity it caused was not national prosperity, but was the bloated gains of the money kings. The regular method of the money kings for the last 100 years has been to start new manufacturers, new shipping companies, new trading companies, gather all the outside capital possible, freeze out minority stockholders, and throttle outside corporations. This effectively indebted all nations to them. First, it would make parasitic investment equal to the amount deficit of the balance of trade. This was done by putting in the profits derived from the East India Company. Then, after investing these profits, they would have continually reinvest in future profits of all of their enterprise in each and every country until their investments accumulated like rolling balls of snow, to at last becoming an avalanche under which to bury their prosperity of the world. Let's see if I want to go any further here or not. It's at 40 some minutes. Let's see how long this one's going to be here. We'll go a little bit further. So the rise of the money kings is still going on, and then there's a war for independence. Approximately 3% of the Confederate population participated in one of the bloodiest wars in history, and allegedly won their independence. They understood the historical roots of war, injustice, and oppression because they experienced it firsthand. That is knowledge, which has since been lost to posterity. The victor history books do indeed leave out much truth and lie about much of the rest to justify their outcome and to control the future labor pool to the victor's want and needs within such conquered areas. The primary reason for the war for independence was not taxation without representation, but the forced payments of taxes to the king in gold instead of paper money. America was flourishing by using her own fiat money system based only on production, not a gold-based system that could be manipulated by the king. The king could not control the fiat money system, and therefore passed a law requiring that taxes be paid in gold only. The king had most of the gold, that is, the colonies had little. So unemployment ensued. The embittered colonies cried for war. Benjamin Franklin put it this way: the colonists would have gladly borne the little tax on tea and other matters, had it not been that England took away from the colonies their money. Prior to the Revolutionary War, 1774, the Times of London said, disregarding fiat money in America, if this mischievous financial policy, which has its origins in North America, shall become indurated down to the fixture, then that government will flourish its own money without end, without cost. I'm sorry. It will pay off debts and be without debts. It will have all the money necessary to carry on its commerce. It will become prosperous without precedent in the history of the world. The brains and wealth of all the countries will go to North America. That country must be destroyed or it will destroy every monarchy on the globe. The truth is that the revolution failed. You might say that we won a military victory over the most powerful military force on the planet at that time. However, reading the Treaty of Paris, that it was signed in the winter of 1782, it becomes clear that we were not exactly negotiating as equals, were we? So, the truth is, we had won the recall of British troops, but not the bankers. Even though we are taught that we won our independence from England, we actually were able to remain free from the international bankers for only a few years at the close of the presidency of Andrew Jackson. Most visible of the power structure was the East India Company, owned by the bankers and the Crown in London, England. This was an entirely private enterprise whose flag was adopted by Queen Elizabeth in 1600. 13 red and white horizontal stripes with a blue rectangle in its upper left-hand corner. You see that? You see what he just said here? This was an entirely private enterprise whose flag was adopted by the Queen Elizabeth in 1600. 13 red and white horizontal stripes with a blue rectangle in its upper left-hand corner. All debts owed before the war were to be collected by the foreign creditors, these trade companies, by and through the custom houses run by these trading companies. Practice goes on to this very day throughout the planet. Various custom houses of the many so-called countries fall directly under the control of the foreign agents to ensure the payment and services of the past and present debts. So who was behind the Constitution? When the creditors of the new social compact of the so-called United States of America as a nation state found the Articles of Confederation, which I have here. This is a booklet, Articles of Confederation. They were seen as being inadequate because basically what they wanted was a centralized power. There was no centralized power in this. It was states working with states. To be inadequate to exact payment from their young debtor, the Constitution was written. This document puts into operation the Treaty of Paris and those ongoing amendments thereto. Let's say that again. When the creditors of the new social compact of the so-called United States of America as a nation/state found the Articles of Confederation to be inadequate to exact payment from their young debtor, the Constitution was written. This document put into operation the Treaty of Paris and those ongoing amendments thereto. It was supported by the bankers through their associates to increase their control over the social compact known as the United States of America. Had the Articles of Confederation been completed and adopted instead of the Constitution, the bankers would have had far less control over the signatures to the social compact or to the posterity in the future. Do you realize what they're saying here? And I talked about this many years ago. I've done a video on it. They, they want to get this Constitution dealt with. So they met at Anaheim, tried to meet at Anaheim, met at Annapolis, but not enough people showed up. And I have a book that actually talks about all this. It's unbelievable. I've already shared this with other people with one of my videos. You need to look back in the past, probably a couple years ago. Their whole idea was simply they just ignored the Articles of Confederation. In order to be honest about this whole thing, if this Articles of Confederation here, and it's very brief, it's not probably no more than 10 and 15, probably no more than 20 pages if it's that many. It is actually 28 pages, but that includes all the members who actually signed it. And there's only about 13 articles here. That's it. So what they did was simply is they ignored this when they met at Philadelphia. That's what they did. And that's why you have Patrick Henry saying, as he was invited, he said, "I smell a rat." There were others that opposed this too. But the control, the bankers already actually, with very few newspapers, they used it to push their ideas. And Alexander Hamilton was a key figure in this, and others. So that was the reason why, because what happened, it became a centralized government. And what was part of this Articles of Confederation was the states, which meant they didn't have a centralized power. Do you follow? It's much easier to deal with one centralized power than 13. It's been harder for them. Any constitution must have some prior reference to establishing its foundation. The authority for the so-called American Constitution is alleged to be based upon the Bible, the Magna Carta, which was signed in 1215 by King John, the Petitions of Rights granted by King Charles I in 1628, the English Bill of Rights granted by William and Mary in 1689, the right of habeas corpus granted by King Charles II, and the Articles of Confederation in 1781. And accordingly, any and every constitution thereafter must have an enabling clause. From this point onward, no constitution may diminish in any manner those rights already established in the above 6 documents relative to the social compact which it referred, and to whom such were created for or by, other than by such powers as enumerated for such causes as might be demonstrated. The beneficiaries thereof may and of right collectively established according to principles by which any previous social compact was established to begin with may reinstitute new safeguards for their freedom, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for themselves and their posterity, laying its foundation upon such principles as they shall see fit to secure those benefits unto themselves. So the Declaration of Independence declared universally to a candid world that all people were sovereign under the Creator's natural law when they took upon themselves the mantle of sovereignty, singularly, jointly, and severally, and assume among the powers of earth their separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's creator entitle them. These sovereign people, the various estates of the planet Earth, created their separate and equal state, body, corporate government for the protection of their rights in a union, that is, a marriage of the several states to better serve their needs, these ends for themselves and their posterity. These endeavors in union sought for foreign alliance to better firm up their collective relationship to the various social compacts of the time in the interest of goodwill and peace within the international public order of the day. They delegated certain authority from the people's powers, the signature to the founding documents created the social compact, by and through the several state constitutions in order that the 3 branches of the agency government could properly carry out its dictates outlined in the state constitution to protect the rights in relation to foreign exchange that might arise from time to time by the formality of treaty. The so-called American Constitution created a new structure of central agency government that was established on a much higher plane in either the parliamentary system or the confederation of states when they're delegating agency powers for foreign purposes as delineated by the social compact to govern such agency power. It was a people's constitutional republic where a certain amount of power was reserved to the states and a certain amount was delegated to the federal agency government. The so-called agency, that is the United States by way of the United States and Congress assembled, has certain powers delegated by the Constitution, so far as the several states party to the Constitution are concerned. The United States may not exercise power that is not delegated by the Constitution. All powers not delegated in the United States by the Constitution is reserved to the several states within their respective territory borders or to the signature or the posterity currently living people. And I'm going to stop there. This is probably about 55 minutes here. And I think that's enough for the night, this part. And so I wanted to share this with you tonight. This is really good. This is something I didn't even know right here, this most recent part here. And it's good. It's always good to learn. And so I just wanted to tell you that and share this with you tonight. Again, this is from the manual. Let's see, it's Redemption Manual 4.5. It's critical that you understand who you are. And I believe that probably over 99% of people in this country do not know who they are. And it's true of other countries too. Most people don't know who they are. And they're pulled around, except they don't have a rope around their necks. But in reality, they think they're free, but they're not free. This is about the whole thing of actually getting people to be free. So I wish you a good night and appreciate your attention. And again, if you have questions, I'll be more than glad to actually answer them. And I wish you, like I said, a good night. You take care.